Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Old! This is a new movie by writer, director, producer M. Night Shyamalan. Just hit HBO Max. It's a movie that I heard mixed things about, which is kind of a good comparison to M. Night Shyamalan's career in general. The dude has made some masterpieces in his career, but he's also made some of the worst films of the of any director. I'm going to be doing a top 5 of his movies and ranking them on Sunday's episode. But in this episode, I'm talking about Old. This one is about a family going on vacation. They go spend the day on a private beach with some other people that are on vacation at the same resort, and some weird things start to happen. Let me just say that the name of this movie, the poster of this movie, will explain the crazy things. I wouldn't necessarily say that the things that happen on this beach are a spoiler, as M. Night Shyamalan is one to incorporate into his films. He is well known for the twist endings, the surprise endings. He puts a lot of effort into the endings of his films, which I appreciate. When he pulls it off, it elevates the film quite a bit. Obviously, The Sixth Sense is a classic example of that. He had a chunk of movies from '99 to through the early 2000s of films that just were amazing. And each one of them had this kind of a twist ending, surprise ending. I would say some of them are more surprise endings than twist endings, because they're not always twists. I don't know. Either way, in general, I'm not a big fan of this movie. This movie was, I wouldn't necessarily say it was disappointing, because I didn't really have high hopes for this film, but it definitely is. Let's just say it's not going to make my top 5 M. Night Shyamalan movies. Spoilers for Sunday's episode. All of the characters, especially in the beginning of this film, speak in a very flat, robotic type of way. The performances of all of these actors is very low energy, which is another kind of staple of M. Night Shyamalan films. A lot of his films really have this very low, like subdued, calming, low energy kind of a tone. And it's really up to the actors and their performances that bring a lot of life to these characters, which the actors in this movie I don't feel do a good job of doing at all. They are flat. What they say is flat. How they react is very unrealistic and weird to watch. For instance, there's a character that has a seizure early on in this film in a restaurant, and everybody in the restaurant seems pretty chill. Like, the whole situation, everybody's pretty chill about this person having a seizure. And it's just weird. Like, the reactions that people have in this movie are very strange. And very alien-like, very robotic, very just as watching the film, just having the tone of everything being so mellow, and then to have all the reactions not really fit with the situations that are going on, really takes me out. It really feels like I'm watching an alien's interpretation of what humans might interact like, might be like if aliens had never studied, or if they were just guessing how humans would react. Because obviously, if aliens had actually studied us on any level, they would know that we overreact to everything. And this movie is doing the complete opposite of that. The characters, possibly because of how low energy everybody is and their performances, I don't really like any of these performances, these characters, that is. I don't really care. There's a racist character that's just it's it's like a racist caricature, and not to say that we're not surrounded by racist caricatures on a daily basis in America these days. Like, those types of people have really been emboldened by the former president and really are outspoken with the racism and really just unabashed with how they put themselves out there. But for that to be like one of the biggest character traits of any of these characters is kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer. There's the racist guy, and then his girlfriend is all about vanity. Is like the Instagram influencer type of a character. So two traits of humans that are disgusting are very well expressed in this movie, where everybody else is kind of just flat and boring. The kids, the aspect of this movie, obviously I'm going to be doing spoilers, I'm going to be talking about aspects of the movie, but the big issue, the reason why this movie is called Old, is because they go to this private beach, and they slowly start to realize that people get older a lot faster on this beach. And they're first clued into this by the kids who start getting older. Because, of course, adults don't really change that much from year to year. Slowly, we get a little bit more wrinkly. We get a little bit more gray hairs. You know, maybe the bones aren't as strong. Maybe we're not as active and healthy. Like, it's a very slow progression for adults once they get to about 30. It's kind of tough to see. But with kids, in 10 years, there's a huge difference. So many of these families people that are on this beach have kids, and that's how they're first clued in that people are getting older, that the kids start growing up. And one of the good aspects of this movie, I would say, is the casting of all these kids that play the different ages. I think the casting is on point. I believe that these are kids getting older. So that's a positive. That's a positive aspect of it. But the way they react, like in the first moments where these kids are clearly older, like they start off at like 5 and 10, and now they're like 15. They're like in their teens. Like the parents don't even like acknowledge that they're kids. Like they don't realize that they're their kids older. Like they're just, who are these kids? It's like, wouldn't you recognize like an older version of your kid? And wouldn't that realization that your kid is being older blow your fucking mind? But not in this movie. This movie, no minds are blown. They're just like, oh, it must have been something they ate. Maybe it's a virus. Maybe it's the food that we got sent here. Like everything, all of their thought processes of all of these characters. Like I could get it if it's like a character or two that maybe isn't like things aren't clicking very well. But like for every character to be on the same wavelength about, I wonder what the issues are, and very calm about it, it bummed me out. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now, back to our show. It bummed me out because I want to like M. Night Shyamalan films. I am a fan of Shyamalan. I worked at the movie theater when Sixth Sense came out, and it bombed initially. It went from like a big theater all the way down to the small theater at the theater I worked at. And through word of mouth, it went from that small theater and then was selling out every day in the large theater. Like it became this like cultural phenomenon, The Sixth Sense. And it was amazing. And there are a lot of films that he's made that I am a huge fan of. So I want him to be good. And it's a bummer that his career and reputation became a punchline. Like there was a time where you could go into a movie theater, and if there was a credit on the screen for a trailer for an upcoming movie if it said it was produced, directed by, associated with M. Night Shyamalan in any way, the crowd would erupt in laughter. And that is sad. It is sad. And then he dug himself out. And now we're at a point where it's just like, it felt like he was on his way up. It felt like things were starting to come together for the guy. And then he makes this movie that feels like some of the performances feel like After Earth, which in my opinion is the worst piece of film ever made, if not just for M. Night Shyamalan's career. I haven't seen two of his early films that I've heard are bad, but After Earth is garbage. One of the reasons why I think Will Smith is one of the most overrated actors. His performance in that is just as flat and meaningless as all the performances in this movie. It really felt like all these actors studied Will Smith in order to do this movie. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna go as flat and just emotionless as possible. We're gonna be as robotic as Will Smith is in After Earth, and that is not something I appreciate about M. Night Shyamalan films. I do like the creativity. I mean, the premise of this is super interesting, right? It's like a Twilight Zone-y type of a premise where, you know, for some reason people get old on this beach and they can't leave the beach. Every time they try to leave through the same place, same way they entered, they pass out and end up on the beach again. They can't swim out because that doesn't go well. They're surrounded by cliffs, so you can't climb out. Like, they're just stuck on this beach, which is like, they don't have to explain any of that stuff. It's like, okay, these are the rules for this movie. I'm in. But, like, if the performances were better, like, at least it would give me something. At least I would care. And there's a good actor in this. I mean, a lot of the actors I don't recognize at all. But Gael Garcia Bernal is a great actor. I think he's been in some great stuff. His performance, like the performances of some of these actors, does get slightly better as the movie goes on. But for the most part, it is far too little, far too late. Also, Rufus Sewell plays the racist guy, which, you know, he's like a racist guy that has like, he ends up getting like dementia, and it just keeps getting worse, and it's just I don't know, the people are like way too okay with this crazy racist guy being around in this movie, which is a bummer. There's a rapper whose name is Midsize Sedan, which is the dumbest. I mean, not to say rapper names are the most intelligent, mind-blowing, like inspiring names that they come up with, but Midsize Sedan as a rapper feels like a spoof comedy version of a rapper written by some racist old guy. Like somebody that's just trying to be funny, but like really taking a huge pile of shit in like the just popular hip hop culture. So there, he's one of two black characters, and of course the racist guy blames him for everything because a person winds up, they find a dead body, and the first person who, Midsize Sedan, like everybody else, despite the fact that this guy is a professional entertainer, has the same low-level, like robotic, emotionless kind of reaction to everything going on. Up until like a little bit later on, he kind of gets a little bit of life to him, but overall wasn't a fan of a lot of that. There's a lot of like fun camera work, as M. Night Shyamalan films are to have. Most of the camera work in this are like a lot of spins. The camera does 360 spins a lot, and I'm not talking like spins around the character in 360. I mean like the cameraman just spun around in 360 degrees multiple times. Instead of just going from person over here to person over here, it would be like, woo! I was going to do that, but then I have other cables attached to this, and I don't want to tear down my audio equipment to make a point of the spinny camera movements. Long takes, like and the themes of it are kind of interesting. It's like, because everybody's getting old, these kids grow old super fast. There's a couple lines in this where the kids, as they've gotten older, they talk about how their brain thinks differently as they've gotten older, which is super interesting, but only like 2 lines in the entire film where like 2 different characters mention how they notice their brains are thinking differently through obviously puberty, kicking in and things like that. There's a scene where kids who were like 5 when they got on the beach, they get older and then they end up having kids together. But the child doesn't make it, so it's like this weird, there's like interesting ideas that happen. There's a scene where the woman who's obsessed with vanity and her looks, like kind of retreats into a cave because she doesn't want people to see her get old. And probably the only terrifying scene in this entire film is when she's like, the kids are like running away to get away from, I think, from the racist guy who's like attacking people because he's got complete dementia. But like they run into this cave and they see this woman who's gotten old, and she's like angry at them to get away. And like as she's coming at them, like her bones start to break but instantly fuse, so she becomes like this mangled like witch almost. It's probably the most terrifying aspect of this entire movie, and it's just a small little scene. But I appreciated that. Like there's little things that I appreciated. Like if the writing was a little bit better, had a little bit more life to it, even if the performances, because there's been like M. Night Shyamalan's writing style hasn't changed much. I would say this one is a little bit more subdued than most of his movies, but there are some amazing performances in his films, and that is these actors bringing those words to life, bringing life to those words. And in this movie, there is no life. Like everything is lifeless on this beach, despite the fact that everything is growing at an accelerated rate. Some of the characters, like there's another interesting part is like some of the characters that survive, like a lot of people die. A lot of them die, obviously, for different reasons, because they're trying to escape, or because of the racist white guy that's allowed to like be around at all. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. Some of the characters, as they get old, they start losing hearing, they start losing vision. And the way all those things are portrayed, the themes of just how fast life gets, especially when you get older, how fast children grow up, how easy it is to lose the time you have with your kids as they're growing up is an interesting theme. So there's like interesting aspects to it, but there's a death in this film where they're defending against the racist white guy, and he gets cut, but he gets cut with a rusted knife. And the way he dies, because the rust keeps him from being able to heal. Because other people who got cut, like the racist guy at one point cuts the cheek the black mid-sized sedan. The dumbest name. And it instantly heals. There's a scene where one of the characters has a tumor, and they instantly agree that we need to remove this tumor because it's like growing so fast. And it's hard to remove the tumor because the opening heals so fast. So it's like when this character gets cut with the rusty knife, he's unable to heal because of the rust and anyway, it's an interesting scene. And then even at the end when there's only a couple people left and were once kids and they're now like in their middle aged, it's like the idea of like them just wanting to build a sandcastle, them just finishing a game of decoding this thing that one of them was given, like just to enjoy life and live life, to just enjoy life instead of worrying about it, trying to get out of your situation. Like there's interesting themes, but they're all distracted from with just the boring performances from everybody. And then there's I guess you would call the legit twist at this movie, which again, spoilers, obviously. The characters get off the island, right? They got to swim through the coral, which the coral is above water for some reason. It's all bleached, which is a bummer because that's dead coral. But for whatever reason, that's the portal out. That's like the only safe way off of this beach is to swim under that. And at first, they don't think they make it. Like the whole beach the phenomenon of the beach is never explained. But the reason why they were taken there is explained, and that is there's a pharmaceutical company that discovered this beach, and they're using that beach to test new drugs. And they're using that beach to test new drugs is because they can do trials that would take a day, that would take a lifetime in the normal time span of human life, right? So one of these characters, the one that was having the seizure, that was everybody was super chill about, this pharmaceutical company was testing a bunch of different medications. The dementia guy, like they're all kind of there to, they're all the test mice, being different drugs being tested on all of them. But out of all of them, the only medication that ended up working was this seizure medication, because she didn't have a seizure until she ended up dying eventually. But that was the success. So you got to crack some eggs to make an omelet, kind of a reasoning for it, which is interesting. You know, pharmaceutical company running these trials on people without their knowledge. You know, they take advantage of this weird phenomenon that happens on this beach to test their drugs and to come out with drugs. The thing that doesn't is like the most unbelievable aspect of this movie, other than the performances of these characters that don't feel like real humans at all, is that the two people actually survive. These two of the kids survive. They swim out and they go back to this resort where everything's kind of orchestrated, where a cop is on vacation as well. And they go to the cop, and the cop actually does his job. Cops don't do their job. Cops, they only serve themselves. I mean, we see report after report of cops just would rather play Pokemon Go than stop a robbery. They would rather shoot children than shoot terrorists. Like their function in society is not anywhere near what this cop does, who, of course, this cop takes everything seriously, believes the fact that these kids grew up super fast, and that, like, just no questions, believes these people, and not only believes them, but is able to do the things that he needs to do on his own to call in and get the pharmaceutical company shut down. Like, the second part is that a pharmaceutical company would actually be held responsible for anything they did ever. So a cop doing his job, pharmaceutical company being shut down for their just being horrible to humanity. Like how many pharmaceutical companies gained tons of money basically fueling an opioid crisis in this country? Nothing happened to any of them. They pay small fines in comparison to the money they rake in. They charge exorbitant amount of money to people that could barely afford medications with insurance, let alone without insurance. Pharmaceutical company gets shut down, and everybody just seems to have no problem believing these 40-year-old people that say that they were 5 years old not that long ago. So those three aspects of the end of this movie are complete and utter bullshit to me. It's kind of it feels good to watch that. It feels good to see justice, but you want to talk about the most unrealistic aspect of this entire movie is not people aging fast on a beach. It is a cop doing their job, a pharmaceutical company being held responsible for their practices, and for crazy people to be believed. Just ridiculous. So overall, I really didn't like this movie. Had, again, interesting themes, interesting aspects. The casting of the kids I thought was on point. But overall, one of... definitely not the worst. Sadly, M. Night Shyamalan has done far worse films than this, but definitely possibly on the list of worst movies M. Night Shyamalan has done. And a bummer, considering that it really felt like he was on a trajectory to be doing great work again. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. But it was a bummer. So if you want to watch it, it's on HBO Max at the moment, but I wouldn't recommend it. And it's the title is Old. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.